Hey guys, welcome back to Alaska Guamas, and I wanted to give you an update, a couple updates on a couple different things. One, I wanted, kind of a channel update. One of the reasons why we haven't been so active this year, and then secondly is an update basically on my most recent surgery, which is rotator cuff repair as well as a biceps tendinosis. And so, if you want to just skip to that and skip the channel update, just go right here to that time, whatever that is, and that will begin where I start talking specifically about the rotator cuff and what happened. So, as I said in maybe not the last video, because I think the last video was our Christmas video, but what I said in the video before that is that I've been having a lot of medical problems this year, which is one of the reasons why we have not updated the channel as of late, or much at all this year. This year I've now undergone, well, technically I didn't undergo two surgeries in the same year. I had a knee surgery in May. So starting in March, something happened with my knee. I got some kind of a weird impingement happening where I couldn't put any pressure on my knee at all. And went in, discovered that I had some kind of an impingement, that they had to go in, cut out, remove some of the fat pad, and trim back some of the cartilage so that my knee would open properly and not be impinged. And that was in May. And then we went to Kansas for my son's graduation. And when I came back, it was miserable. It was only supposed to be like 6 weeks. It was 4 or 5 months before I could put weight back onto my knee again. And the whole time I was in pain. And it was just a rough year. We didn't get to go fishing. It rained all summer last year. And then finally, when my knee was good enough to go out and go fishing, we went out in August. We went out twice, got skunked both times, and completely not worth recording any of it. So we didn't, and we didn't upload anything. Mostly last summer was kind of laid up. Most weekends I was at home in bed. Not necessarily in bed, but just not doing anything because my knee hurt so much. And I was constantly just chewing the Advil and the Tylenol and just suffering through it. And then finally, fall, so August comes around. I'm starting to feel good. And Labor Day weekend hits us. And I go out, we're out shopping, and a couple of things come in that I see. I found this pellet smoker, this Pit Boss pellet smoker, and I had always kind of been against pellet smokers, as I've mentioned in the channel before, because I really like the art of stick smoking. But when I was in Kansas, my ex-brother-in-law, he was showing me his pellet smoker and how he was using it. And I thought, yeah, it might be worth it. So Labor Day weekend comes around here in Alaska. Things go on sale really, really discounted. All your summer stuff goes on sale, very discounted. And so I got a Pit Boss. I don't know. It's a large Pit Boss. I think it's called the Onyx or whatever. I got it for $300, and because it was missing the little rubber grommet that goes on the what do you call that? That thing that covers the top of the burner itself. It was missing that grommet. I got another $50 off. I mean, I ended up getting this $700 smoker for $300, and it works great. It worked great, but I had slept wrong on my shoulder or something. I don't know. My shoulder was already hurting, and then I'm a short dude. I'm like 5'6", and my truck, I've got a 3-inch lift on it. And it's not much, right? Except when I'm already short and I'm lifting up this heavy smoker. We lifted it and then had to go to the side with it to get it on the tailgate. And I felt it. I felt the bicep pop out of the groove it's supposed to be in. It snapped through the tissue that holds it in place. And then just from then on, I just had a bunch of excruciating pain for my shoulder. And so, consequently, that was the beginning of September. And then here in January 12th, I had an operation done, and I'm going to get into that here in a second. But because of all that, we just haven't done anything on this channel, and it's disappointing to some degree because I really wanted to be more active. In fact, when we went up to Hatcher's Pass, I said that I had something that I was excited to talk about, and it's something to keep me accountable. I ended up doing some intermittent fasting, and have since stopped, but I ended up losing 26 pounds in 2 months, in 8 weeks, and I've since gotten back about 12 of it. So, but no, that's not true. Let's see, 26. Yeah, I'm still like 15 pounds down from what I was prior to the intermittent fasting, and I still want to come back to that, but that's kind of secondary to all of this. I'd like to start the intermittent fasting and lose more weight, and kind of talk to you guys about it as I do it, because it was very successful. The only thing that I really had a problem with was just keeping my electrolytes up, just because I ended up drinking probably too much water. I was drinking a lot of water, and I think I was just depleting my electrolytes. But anyway, going back to my shoulder surgery, or my shoulder, I was lifting the smoker into my truck. I felt the bicep, the tendon of the bicep runs around here, and I heard it. I heard like that, and I was like, man, that was weird. It didn't hurt. It wasn't like an immediate sharp pain, although immediately after well, let me rephrase that. A few minutes later, like after I got back in the truck, and I was like, man, my shoulder really hurts. But it wasn't just here. It was here for sure, but it was all the way around. And it turns out what I did was I tore 3 of the rotator cuff tendons, and the only one I didn't was the teres minor, I think is what it's called. I don't know. I always think Lord of the Rings, teres min. I can't even think of what it is now, but but that's the only one. The supraspinatus, the subscapularis, and the other one of the that's not the teres minor. I tore all 3 of those tendons. As I mentioned, I dislocated my bicep tendon, the long head biceps tendon, and then my doctor seems to think that through just moving, I ended up tearing it lengthwise up the tendon. So basically the tendon was now forking, and so on top of that, my MRI and my X-rays showed that I had bone spurs and impingement on the upper part, which is the subscapularis, I believe. I think that's right. Anyway, it was very painful, and for sometimes I would get this, yeah, it doesn't really hurt today, maybe I don't actually need to have surgery, and then 2 days later I'd just be miserable and I couldn't do anything to get comfortable, and it would wake me up all night long because of the pain sleeping on my shoulder, and so finally, by the time I went to do the surgery, it was obvious I needed to do that surgery. And so let me talk to you a little bit about the surgery, how it went. We're now at day 6 post-op, and where I am currently. And I will tell you, it may not look like it from my face, but that's through the miracle of pain meds. It's still very painful. It's quite painful. I'm sleeping in a recliner in my living room. It's actually, we have a sectional, and so we have recliners on either side, and I'm sleeping in one of them that I have the arm on the one side, and then this side's free to the couch. It actually makes it very comfortable. I've been able to sleep pretty well. And I'm sleeping mostly through the night. I wake up a little bit because it sometimes gets sore, and I might sometimes have to wake up and take some pain meds in the middle of the night, but that's less and less. The first couple nights I definitely did. I had to set it like clockwork. But the last few nights, I'm sleeping about 6 hours before I wake up in pain. What they ended up doing was they ended up going in, grinding down the underside of the clavicle, the underside of the scapula as well. They the doctor said that I think he said that I've got 6 anchors. So they go in, they stitch the tendons together, then they anchor them to your bicep. I'm sorry, to your humerus, the bone. And I've got 6 of those. I've got 7 punch marks through my shoulder where they had to go in and work, and then I've got in the armpit area that I haven't been able to see because I can't get to it. And you can't lift your arm, but I've got a 2-inch open wound where they had to go in, slice open the bicep, and anchor that to the bone as well. And according to what the hospital said, the only thing they could have done to me, the only additional thing they could have done at this point was full replacement, because otherwise everything that could be done in your shoulder was done. And so what I really want to talk about is the fact that I've seen a lot of these videos going up to it. I was super nervous. I was really worried about the pain when I asked my doctor. I've had 5 hip replacements. I've had 2 of them at the same time. One of them got staph, and it had to get replaced 3 more times before it was finally settled. And so I asked my doctor, I said, how does this compare to a hip replacement? And he says, oh, this is a little worse. I was really nervous and really stressed out about this procedure because I've gone through a lot of pain with my hips, and I'll tell you, this may be a little worse than when they do the way they do hip replacements now, where they come in from the front. But the way they did mine, they come in from the back through the glute, and the fact that I've had 3 revisions on top of the original implant, this doesn't compare to the hips at all for me. It is painful, but the pain is mostly managed with the pain meds and the Advil. I take Advil as well as Norco, which are hydrocodone, and I'm also using a CBD patch so that I'm really trying to tackle this from all angles, so that one CBD patch typically helps you to not have to take as many narcotics, which I also want to address here in a second as well, because I've seen a lot of videos where people get in there, and there's been so much propaganda pushed on us about how dangerous and how addictive narcotics are, and people aren't taking their pain meds after these surgeries because they don't want to get addicted, which I think is really sad, because people are intentionally suffering when they don't need to suffer as much because they're not taking their pain meds, because they've been told, through all of the information out there that, I will call it propaganda in my opinion, that, it's addictive, and it is addictive. But what these doctors aren't correcting you on is you're not going to get addicted in 2 weeks worth of pain meds, 3 weeks worth of pain meds. It takes months before your body becomes dependent on it. At least that has been my experience, and I've had used them a lot for all the surgery. I've had to have more surgeries than most people, and more than I can even count at this point. But 5 total hip replacements, between the right and the left, 4 on the left, 1 on the right. I've had 3 hernia surgeries. I've had a tonsillectomy. I've had shoulder repair. I've had some back stuff that they ended up doing a back procedure on. And I've had to be on pain meds, off and on throughout my entire life. And I don't like taking them. And I get off them as soon as I can, but I can tell you from experience, you don't get addicted by 2 weeks worth of pills. You're not going to start, that's not when you start going out there hooking up and trying, getting shit off the street. Come on, guys. It's ridiculous. They wouldn't be doing that if that was the case. They wouldn't be giving it to you. It would be way more controlled. But so at the same time, so anybody that's going into this and they're worried about the pain meds, just take the pain meds as you're prescribed. You're only going to take them for 2, maybe 3 weeks. And if you're really worried about the addictive part of it, at the end of it, you just wean yourself off. Basically, you go after you get over that big bout of pain in the beginning, go longer and longer and longer in between meds until you're taking 1 pill a day, and then just stop. I mean, it's literally that simple, unless you have a psychological addiction. That's an entirely different animal. But as far as physical addiction, and obviously I'm not a doctor, and you can't take what I'm saying as medical advice, and I don't want to get flagged for giving medical advice. It's not my intention. My intention is just talk with your doctor, because they give you the pain meds because it hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. And I've heard some people say it didn't hurt that much. I've heard some people say that it hurt a lot. But more important, everybody's got these questions of what the healing time is. And everything I've done in all the videos I've seen and all the discussions I've had with my doctor, and I ask a lot of questions, what I've seen is that, one, everybody reacts differently, right? Everybody has a different pain threshold, and everybody just reacts to pain. Two people can have the exact same procedure and react completely differently just because of their physiology. But more importantly, as it turns out, the shoulder is an extremely nuanced and very complicated area of your body. And so, just because you're going in, let's say it's a subscapularis, just because you have a subscapularis tear, and then, John next door has a subcapularis tear as well, doesn't mean the tear is exactly the same, and it doesn't mean that they're going to repair it exactly the same. One is the doctor. What techniques is he using to repair your surgery, your torn ligament? One is what kind of activity are you doing to protect or to strengthen? Now, you're not supposed to be strengthening this at this point. In fact, I'm going to be in my sling for 6 weeks, and then I'm going to have 6 weeks plus of rigorous PT. Right now, from day one, I was able to pull my arm out of the sling, let it just kind of dangle like this and pendulum it. I can lift my bicep like this just to keep movement in my elbow, and then I can lift I cannot lift my arm. I have to passively lift my arm, I have to lift this arm with this hand, like this, or however you want to hold it. Or what most often happens is my wife actually I just let my arm loose, and she lifts it to 90 degrees, and she puts it down. And she lifts it, and she puts it down. And so we do that 4 or 5 times a day. And it seems to be wonderful. Now, what's really weird that I've not heard anybody talk about is, so when they're doing, if you have gone and you're about to have this procedure and you're researching it now, you may have seen some of these procedures performed. And one of the things that they do is they run water through you. They run saline through you the whole time. It helps to open things up. It helps the doctor to see what's going on inside there. But what ends up happening is that your muscles, all of your soft tissue, everything just gets saturated with saline. And you're in a brace, and you're not allowed to move your arm. So that water does not want to go anywhere. Here you're moving like this, and it's constantly getting it pumped through your system, right? When you can't move your arm, you're not getting that pumped through your system. You can't lift it over your head to kind of drain it. And a lot of people have a lot of pain trying to lay on their back, and so they can't do that even to try to help elevate the shoulder and drain it out. Thankfully, I've found a way that I'm able to. But what I've discovered, and I haven't heard anybody else talk about this, is that I noticed that the first day or the first time I did it, I noticed that my arm was crusty, and I thought, in part of it, I thought it was hives, because I always have an allergic reaction to the cleaner that they put on there and the betadine. I always have an allergic reaction, so I break out in hives every time that stuff gets used. So I thought it was just the hives, but I noticed that it would scratch off. And then eventually I started putting 2 and 2 together. Man, I go in and I scratch, and when you first scratch it, it's like, oh, it's such a relief. It feels so good. And then you just can't stop. You're just like, oh, and you don't scratch hard, you just enough. But you start to notice that there's crumblies, if you will, or the crusty stuff that ends up coming off as you're scratching, gets under your fingernails, and it's basically just dead skin, right? But as it turns out, what it seems to be, and I don't know for sure, but this is my theory, is that your water, so all that water that's saturated in your arm is now just coming out your pores. And then as it does that, it's getting the dead skin cells and it's clogging up at your pores. Because I've noticed every time I scratch and I start loosening that stuff up, before I know it, my whole arm is beaded up with water. And I gotta, it's very, very thin. It's not like if water comes pouring out of me. But you definitely see it. And so that's something to consider. Like I said before, this is day 6. Day 6 is it's going better. It was fairly easy. I ended up getting a nerve block, so they came into my shoulder, top of my shoulder here, with some kind of a Novocaine or something, and put a nerve block into a bundle of nerves that was here. They did that guided with ultrasound. And then that got into my arm, and so my hand was numb, my arm was numb, and so that really helps post-surgery. And that lasted for a little less than 24 hours for me. And now I have full feeling in my hands, and I have since about a day after. But that nerve block really helps because that first day, when it's the most painful, you're not feeling a lot of it. Now, because I did have the biceps tendinosis where they came in, so I don't know if I explained this, but the bicep had dislocated the tendon. So they go in, they cut that tendon off, and then they anchor it right to your, it's the right to your bone, but the scar is inside, or the cut is inside my armpit. And so I'm not sure exactly where they anchor it to your, I'm guessing somewhere around here, but who knows. And then I don't know what they do. I think this just shrinks up and kind of just withers away eventually, just atrophies completely. But this is now anchored here, and eventually you'll have full range of motion for that. Let's see. So that, though, was not affected by this block. So when I came out of surgery, that is what really, really hurt. And it was extremely painful. And like whatever they gave me at the hospital, they gave me fentanyl. And what sucks about fentanyl is that, it's a strong painkiller, but it only lasts like 20 minutes, So eventually when I was awake enough, they gave me 2 hydrocodone. And that took about 2 hours before it finally went away. And then I was able to stay ahead of it with the pain. So that's the other thing is my doctor, you got to go by what your doctor says. But I spoke to my doctor. I listened to a lot of doctors on YouTube, as I'm sure everybody that's interested in this is doing as well. I was kind of surprised. I've heard some people say, yeah, the doctor said as soon as you notice some of that numbness going away, start taking your pain meds because you got to get ahead of it. My doctor said you keep on that regimen beforehand. So even though you may not feel it, if it says every 4 hours like mine did, you take that med every 4 hours until that wears off. And that really, really helped with the pain. I had one day on the 3rd day when I thought, oh man, I'm feeling better, I'm going to cut back. And so I took not only less, but I stretched longer. And oh my gosh, I didn't realize how well I was doing by staying ahead of the pain until I fell behind. And then it took me a full day to catch up, and it finally did. And so today, yesterday was really painful. Today's actually not as bad. Today I'm having a pretty good day. But day 6, things are finally feeling better. First couple days were easier the first day was easier because of the fact that you had that nerve block. But at the same time, that nerve block makes it hard to breathe. And so you're always, you're forcing yourself to breathe. But in the end, because of the way it kills the pain, it's probably better. That's something you have to talk with the anesthesiologist about. I'm just telling you what my experience was. And second day, it was okay. That was on Sunday. I still didn't do anything. I was still really out of it from anesthesia. By the 3rd day, Monday, I was feeling actually fairly good. Tuesday was a bad day. Wednesday was a bad day. And then today, Thursday, I think today's Thursday, it's actually doing pretty well. It's it hurts a lot still, and I'm still having to take Advil, and I've gone from 2 pills every 4 hours to 1.5 every 4 to 5 hours now. And so I'm taking less pain meds. I'm still taking Advil very regularly, 4 every 6 hours. Um, and then, like I said, the CBD patches I got them from Pure Ratios, pureratios.com. They are a company out of San Diego, at least they used to be, and it's just hemp, and they last 96 hours. I've used them for years with my hip pain, and they really helped. They helped me anyway. So maybe they can help you as well. Not getting paid for this, not getting free patches. They don't even know I'm making this video, but like I said, I've been using those guys for a long time, and they seem to really do well. I don't think they do well at just getting rid of pain, but they couple with the pain meds. They couple really well, so you can take less than you would think that you normally would. That was my experience with dealing with hip problems. But they told me that there is nothing more they could have done to my shoulder aside from a full replacement. Apparently they went in and if there's a checklist of things that can be done and can be repaired, they did every one of them. That's what the hospital told me on my follow-up call. So is your surgery going to be like mine and last as long as mine? Is it going to be as painful? It might be. It might not be. There's a lot of nuances inside the shoulder that's going to determine that, including your own physiology. And so I could tell you for me, 6 days, it's not quite as bad as I expected it to be, but it's rough. And to think I still got another 5 weeks in this sling. What I do want to say though is doing my exercises, the little ones that I can, because you're not allowed to really do much. I can only, like I said, only dangle my arm, curl my bicep, and have my wife lift my arm like this. But in doing those, one, it gives you a 5-minute break from your sling. And that 5-minute break is fantastic. I've also noticed that in doing it multiple times throughout the day, what you're doing is, as you go through your day and you're moving around, your sling eventually gets into a very uncomfortable spot. And so by doing your exercises, once it gets there and you do your exercise, then you put everything back together and it's all snug and where it should be, and it's really comfortable again. And so every few hours, I'm just having to go in and redo my exercises, but it also gives me a chance to reset my sling, and it makes it much more comfortable. So in doing those exercises, though, it really does feel good. I mean, there's the very first time we lift my arm, it's super stiff, and you feel it. And then by the fourth time coming up, because we usually do a series of 10, and you can see I ended up cutting my sleeves just because they were the way this sling pulls. That really restricts you. You have to wear extra large, shirts, and this one, even though this is larger than my normal shirt, the sleeves are not as big as they could be, and so it gets tight, and the way everything pulls, it just starts cutting the circulation off in my arm. So I ended up cutting the sleeves on this shirt. But when by the fourth time my wife lifts my arm up here, man, it feels nice. It's comfortable. It's comfortable and it feels good. And it's just, you just close your eyes and just let it happen, and it just feels so much better. And from what I hear, that right there is the key to success. That is the key to healing and quick healing. Is you got to get that movement. You got to make sure that you don't get a bunch of adhesions that restrict your movement, and then you got to go in under anesthesia where they move your shoulder for you just to break those adhesions because they're so painful. It's expensive and it's unnecessary. Just do your movements as your doctor says. Every procedure is going to be different. You may only have one rotator cuff tendon repair. You may have all four, and your exercises and your downtime is going to be different for each one. So, listen to what your surgeon says. Do the exercises that they say, and you should have a full recovery. And I know there's people out there that don't, and I wonder, did they go too soft? The problem is you go too soft on your PT, you're gonna have problems. You go too hard on your PT, you're gonna set yourself back, and you're gonna have problems. You just have to have that just right enough aggression, and and you should recover well. So anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry it's so long, and sorry, a lot of people are doing this 3 days, 5 days, 7 day post. I just was so not into it. I was not feeling well. It was a lot of pain for my third day. My third day was okay, but then by the time I get around to it, I was already at my fourth day. And then by my fourth day was miserable. My fourth and fifth days were miserable. So today's day 6, and it feels much better. So I'm hoping to make some more here in the next coming weeks, and kind of keep up on this progression and show you guys what happens and how it goes. But again, thanks for watching, and I hope you have yourself a great and blessed day.